Yo, what's good, everybody? I want to welcome y'all back to the No Level Cap podcast. I want to introduce everybody to the crew. We got the collector of collectors and Twitch streamer extraordinaire, Will Coleman. Will, what you streaming lately?
What I'm streaming right now is Romancing Saga 2 right now. I just started my first lineage and my first character already dead. So let's go ahead and go into the sun.
Holy shit, that was quick. I hope that's how that's supposed to work and not just
that's how it's supposed to work.
Okay. And where can they see you at?
You can see me over at Stretch. I'm so tired, y'all. At Twitch TV / Willie DC28. You can catch me whenever I'm not working. That's the best way to put it.
Hardest working man in the business.
Exactly. We got the Black Daredevil and the best actor in Austin, Texas, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
Hey, man. I'm doing pretty well. I got my car, so things are looking up in that regard. I just want to take this time real quick. Shout out to Mute Donkey, who's been commenting on all our videos recently. I know we haven't been able to get to like every single one of your comments, and we appreciate like the in-depth comments that you leave, but yeah, thanks so much for all the support you've been showing the podcast recently, and shout outs to everyone else that's been commenting as well. I know I've seen Devin and Tim, so yeah, thank you to all the people who've been commenting, giving the thumbs up. Yeah, really appreciate the support, but yeah, I'm doing well. Just ready to get into things tonight.
We've got lastly the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's going on, Rakeem?
Oh, nothing much, man. Just ready to get into this podcast tonight. And I also want to thank everybody who's been commentating on the videos, the TikToks, the Twitters, everything. All of your support is greatly welcome. We thank you for the support. We're here for our audience, and we're here to continue doing this thing we're doing. So let's get to this podcast. Let's have a good day.
Listen to these positive motherfuckers. Don't y'all just love them? Lastly, I'm Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. Y'all know on the No Level Cap podcast, we talk about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, and none of the bullshit. We back with episode 27, I believe. No Level Cap goes live every Monday. If you prefer the video version, we're on YouTube. And if you're a fan of the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. And we put up bite-sized clips of the podcast on TikTok and on Twitter. Okay, so this week, we shifted away from the anime, and we shifted away kind of from video games just a little bit. Because we're talking about D23. If you don't know what D23 is, it's like this fan expo where Disney shows up and just drops so much shit on you. Like, I had no idea. Like, we had a whole other show planned, and then I saw how much shit Disney was dropping, and I was like, whoa, wait. All of this? We probably should say something about it. I mean, like, I guarantee you we going to watch, at least I know for sure me and Keem, but I'm positive all of us going to wind up watching a large part of this. So I'm like, whoa, we should probably talk about this. And so, like, I wanted to ask, what's your favorite project that you saw out of D23? Like, it could be, like, Marvel is the most, like, that was the majority of it. But if you saw anything that wasn't Marvel that stood out to you, I mean, like, go ahead and say that one as well. Okay. Will, what was the favorite thing that you saw out of it?
I have to go over so much of it again and taking time out to actually see some of it at work. The thing that stood out to me was Werewolf by Night. And I myself am a horror fan. I enjoy horror movies, horror video games, and horror manga books, whatever you want to call it. I'm into that type of thing. I'm into the scares, the spooks, and all that good stuff.
A Junji Ito fan, you might say.
Yeah, something like a Junji Ito fan, something like that. I enjoy that type of stuff, and it just fits everything I like. And plus, if it's really going to be like kind of in black and white, that's definitely going to give it that good old-fashioned George A. Romero feel that I'm kind of liking. So give me that. I want it. I want to see every ounce of that. I want to see how they play it. I want to see how they play the blood and gore up in that, really, because I've seen quite a bit in that in the trailer, and I'm like, how am I going to play that up on screen?
I'm not going to lie. Like, Werewolf by Night threw me off at first because I was like, all right, Disney... Well, Marvel don't really do horror like that. So yeah, at first, like, I was watching the trailer with Rakeem, and like the trailer popped up, and I looked down, I say, is this gonna be like a comedy? Like, is this gonna like veer into comedy? And it never really did. But we was kind of, me and Keem was talking, as we tend to do. Like, me and my roommates, we always like wind up chopping it up too much to like listen to shit. So I went back and watched it again, and I was like, nah, there's no hints of comedy anywhere in this bitch. This shit ain't no jokes. It's Like somebody got the arm cut off, and like you could see like somebody looking on in terror in front of like what I assume to be like a werewolf, since werewolf by night. That's a very old Marvel property. It's pretty obscure, but I mean like we've been in the weeds. They just made a film based on the Eternals, Jack Kirby's fake ass New Gods, and I don't mean that as an insult to Jack Kirby. I mean that as like he created the New Gods, and it was like, you know what, I should try again. We got like a worse version of the New Gods, which is already a team that nobody knows anything about. I say team, but we're not gonna get into that. But like it's Werewolf by Night is like this 1970s story about an actual werewolf named Jack Russell. And I think they're supposed to have like a bunch of monster hunters in it. And I believe one of the monster hunters is gonna be Elsa Bloodstone, who's a very cool character. We've just never really seen her outside of the comic books. And I think she was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. But I like what I saw that I was interested. Like Will, I'm very curious to see how far they're gonna go, how they're gonna handle the blood and gore of that. It seems like it's going for like a grindhouse type feel, so we'll see.
It does. It also feels like it's kind of like a murder mystery in a way, like almost like, what's the name of that board game again? I forgot
Clue?
the name of it.
Clue.
Yes, it's like that. It felt like that for a minute. Like it's like, who's the werewolf sitting in this room right now? I'm just like, oh.
Or like the game Werewolf.
That too.
Yeah. At first, I thought you were
sense.
mentioning like Knives Out or something like that, but I mean that's all kind of within the same like who done it kind of like clue.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to figure out who's sus among them.
Anyway,
Rakeem, what was your favorite project?
So off the top, an easy one for me was Loki season 2. Loki season 1 was probably my favorite of that first run of shows that came out. I got to shout out Tom Hiddleston, man. He took a character that no one really ever cared about. Like he was always Thor's villain, in Greek mythology. Nobody cared about him to the level until he took that character and made people like enjoy that character and like his villainy and his relationship with Thor and his kind of turnaround, his Vegeta-esque turnaround kind of in the story, and his eventual death in the movies. Spoiler alert. But like him coming and getting his own show and it kicking off the multiverse plot, that was a pretty cool concept. I enjoyed the show a lot. I'm interested in seeing where season 2 is going. Now we have the context of Doctor Strange and Wanda and the stuff going on in multiverse now. How that's going to tie into the second season. All of this is, of course, leading to Kang the Conqueror, of course. So I'm interested. He's also, he debuted in that show as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all ties together. So I'm really excited for Loki season 2. I think it's gonna be a very important show for this run of MCU, tying everything together. And secondly, I give a shout out to Armor Wars because, man, I need to see somebody in a metal suit. It's been too long, man. I miss my Iron Man, and I've always loved War Machine because he's just Black Iron Man. And that was enough for me as a kid. I just saw a black dude in an Iron Man suit, and I was like, hey, let's get it. So Armor Wars is going to be exciting. The tie-in we're down with Ironheart, who's going to debut in the Wakanda Forever movie. Of course, that's going to be cool to see how she's introduced to the audience, how they take her, and how they actually portrays her. I think it's going to be really cool seeing, how the Armor Wars plays out. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. So Loki and Armor Wars are definitely two projects that stood out the most to me. Oh, one last honorable mention. I got to shout out to Willow. Disney has noticed the fantasy trend, and they said we are on board.
Willow looks really good. I'm not gonna lie. Like it.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Normally we kind of get upset sometimes when like people pull on old franchises, because it feels kind of creatively bankrupt. This time I was like, this was a great idea. It feels like this is just the year for fantasy. And pulling on that property, it seemed like people who watched the movie from back in the day over the 80s are kind of excited about it. It looks good to me. Of course, I'm a fantasy fan, so as long as it looks like anything standard fantasy with a decent budget, I'm in. So good out for you, Disney, for this Willow show. I'm definitely going to watch that as well. So I'm looking forward to Armor Wars. I'm looking forward to Loki season 2. Can't wait for that. And Willow. I'm ready to be hanging out with some dwarves and some warriors. Put me in there, coach.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I've yet to see Loki season 1, which I know is like a sin at this point because that's probably the Marvel show that people get the most behind. Like probably Loki, and then after that, maybe Miss Marvel or WandaVision. So like, and I haven't seen any of those. Like I've really only seen Captain America, was it Falcon and Winter Soldier. I saw
Yeah.
that,
Falcon,
and
Winter
I
Soldier,
saw I'm watching She-Hulk. I'm keeping pretty current on She-Hulk. We're on episode 4. Look out for that. We're probably gonna do a full review when it wraps on up. Just letting y'all know. Terrence, what was your favorite project that you saw?
So based on everything that I saw, on the Marvel side, I kind of have I have one thing for the Marvel side and two for like I guess the regular Disney side. For the Marvel side, I'm looking forward to seeing how Secret Invasion goes, because that's something that, like, with this phase of Marvel, it feels like every movie or like every project has had kind of like a ripple effect. Like, there's some projects that are bigger than others, don't get me wrong, but each project feels like it's doing kind of like its own thing that's just adding to this big overall plot, which is in some way you could argue that's how some of the other phases have gone, but it feels like this phase is a little different. And I mean, I'm not going to get too much into that because we've discussed that before, but Secret Invasion just looks really interesting. And of course, I mean, the fact that we have Samuel Jackson back, he's always fun to watch. I just think that series is going to be the one that really propels things forward, because if you know anything about Secret Invasion and where we're kind of heading in the MCU, or at least where it seems like we're heading, this is going to be a very important show to keep your eyes on. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. The other two things on the regular Disney side, and we didn't get a trailer for this, at least I don't think we did. It was just an announcement, was Iwaju. That's the series that's about, I guess it's like a futuristic Nigeria. Yeah, this is one of those cases where I don't really have much to say about it other than, hey, I'm gonna pull an Issa Rae and say I'm rooting for everybody black. So
You're right.
I want to see what they do with this series, and hey, if it's a hit, then more power to it. And the last one, this was a big surprise. I didn't know anything about this. If this was something that people knew about or there were some whispers of, I didn't hear any of those whispers, and I knew absolutely nothing about it. Mufasa the Lion King. I can't believe they actually announced a prequel to the Lion King. Like, that is,
oh snap! Okay,
yeah, it's wild. Like, this, it's supposedly coming out in 2024. It's going to be about well, obviously it's about Mufasa and
young Mufasa.
Yeah, young Mufasa, and like pretty much his origin story. Which, I mean, hey, let's go. I'm curious to see how it's going to be animated. If it's going to be, it'll probably be CG, but I'm curious, if it's going to. I'm curious as to how it's going to look. I'll put it that way. But yeah, I did not expect a new Lion King project like that, let alone a prequel to the original. So I'm down for that. So those are the three things I'm interested in: Secret Invasion, Iwaju, and Mufasa the Lion King. So yeah, I'll check those out whenever they come out.
I think there is an Iwaju trailer, but it's not new. I think it's like an older thing.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I feel like I saw something about that when I was like looking it up. Like when Keem brought it up before we started the show, I feel like I saw like a trailer, but I didn't have a chance to check it out, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as me, like my favorite project that I saw from Marvel is easily Secret Invasion. When you think about it, the movie that really like took it off and let everybody realize, like, you had Avengers, and Avengers was a huge deal, but the one where everybody was like, oh, I'm hooked into this Marvel shit, was Captain America Winter Soldier. Yeah. That was the one where everybody was like, this shit hit. Like, nobody has anything bad to say about that film. Like, you might have some things, like, I've seen people try to turn on Avengers lately. They like, oh, the costume's not as good. The characters aren't as true to themselves as they are later on. I've seen a few people do that, but like nobody has anything bad to say about Winter Soldier ever. Everybody's just like, this is just top to bottom a fire movie. And Secret Invasion looks like it's tapping into a lot of that spy espionage, intrigue type stuff, and it looks solid.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be in the same way that Civil War is a much better film than it ever was a comic book. Hopefully Secret Invasion, which is a better comic book than Civil War anyway, hopefully it's a better TV show than it was a comic book. And then also I understand it's going to lead into my other favorite project that I heard about, which is Armor Wars. Like the fallout from Secret Invasion will lead us directly into Armor Wars. Like Keem said, James Rhodes is one of my favorite superhero characters. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, I always loved characters in armor. And then like I was like, oh, it's Iron Man but black. fuck yeah. Like, as a kid, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And Armor Wars is probably Iron Man's most iconic storyline from like the 80s, other than the one where he was like a drunk, other than Demon in a Bottle. It's probably his favorite. It's probably his most iconic storyline. If you don't know anything about it, and of course, it's not, they haven't talked about the show yet because it's still so far off. If you don't know anything about it, basically Iron Man finds out a lot of his designs have gotten out to like other people, like people with nefarious goals and shit like that. And he feels kind of responsible. He's like, oh, I'm upset at the idea that somebody could be using the designs that I made, because he did that already. He did the Weaponer of Death. He did that shit, and becoming Iron Man, he put that behind him. He was like, I'm done with that. I don't ever want that to be my legacy anymore. I want my legacy to be me helping people. And so like for Armor Wars, it was him finding out like, no, like your legacy is still death, destruction. People are still out here causing harm with your shit. And he was so fed up and so angry, he went on this rampage and was like, I'm fucking up everybody that got the shit. And if that meant fighting some government people who stole his designs, oh the fuck well, he was just gonna fight some government people. And to me, Armor Wars has the potential even as the MCU show, even though Tony's gone, it still has that same potential, because James Rhodes can be like, no, I want my friend's legacy to not be one of death. I don't want my friend's legacy to be what he did before he became Iron Man. He gave up his life to save not just Earth, but all of existence. Like, he brought back half of reality. Like, he saved way more people than he ever killed, really, which is insane to think about. And so, like, I can easily see James Rhodes going down that same super driven, angry road that Tony Stark went down back in the day. Hopefully, it ends in him getting an upgrade to his suit, because that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm all in for that. What's going on?
Side note, I guess since Tony's gone, who works on the armor now? Like, does anyone in Marvel really know how to do the suits like that now?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. She is in Black Panther. Key mentioned her earlier, Ironheart.
Oh, okay,
Ironheart
okay,
basically
Oh, yeah,
looks
that's
at
right.
her origin story is like she studied the Iron Man armor and reverse engineered it and created her own armor. And so like he could connect with her. She can design both an armor for herself and an armor for him. This is complete fan theory, headcanon, what they could do. I would love it if he gets like super driven and goes after like all these people that have stolen the armor designs and shuts them down one by one. In the comics, what happens is eventually he fights a dude who built an armor that was just bigger and stronger than the Iron Man armor, and he gets his shit pushed in, like completely fucking wrecked. He like barely survives. He has to fake his own death, and then he builds a brand new armor specifically just to shut down the armor that whooped his ass. He was gonna quit afterwards, or he was gonna just straight up quit, right? And then he builds this new armor because like the guy that destroyed his old Iron Man armor just keeps fucking with Stark Industries, and he has to stop him because he's like, hey man, I still gotta run a business. And so like I would love to see in like the TV show if like he uses his armor, fights a bunch of people, eventually gets his shit pushed in by one really bad motherfucker, and then finds like the last armor that Tony Stark ever built that he just left for his friend, and he gets like a new War Machine armor, like an upgrade. That would be really cool to me. The other shows that I saw, and I'm gonna real quick run through these. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is like a new cartoon they're working on. Looked really cute, really fun. It gave her a lot of personality that I feel like even the comics couldn't quite give her, in the same way that Miles Morales like got so much personality from Into the Spider-Verse. So
Very
that,
true.
and then Willow looked amazing, and Disenchantment also looked pretty cute.
Yeah, yeah. Shout outs to that.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing. The Percy Jackson reboot. That looked fire. Like that feels like it had a lot of potential as like a television show. Because I know the creator apparently did not like the movies, and so like
I don't
I'm
think
glad
anybody really liked the movies.
Like the first one.
Well,
Yeah.
well, let me put it this way. I think people who read the books, based on what I'm not like up on the series
Yeah.
like that, but based on what I heard from people who read the book back then, they weren't really the biggest fans of the movies. Like they felt like it left too much potential on the table, is what I heard.
Unfortunately, that's true for many book adaptation fans
Yeah.
of all genres.
definitely true. But yeah, I mean, like, hopefully this will give him another shot, another chance at like rectifying things, and we see where we go from there. So here's the thing. we talked about a lot of shit when we talked about our favorite shows, like what we're looking forward to, favorite movies and stuff. And then we left out Star Wars. Like I thought Andor looked great. And then they have like about 8 projects from Star Wars, I think minimum, that they have coming. And so like now I have the question: is Disney just too dominant at this point? Do they have their hands in too many pies? Because it feels like if you like superheroes, if you like fantasy, if you like science fiction to a degree, you cannot escape Disney. They're not just in films. They're not just in movie theaters. They're not just in animated projects. They're in video games now. Like there was a D23 Marvel Game Showcase, which was pretty mediocre, but it was mediocre because they left out like 2/3 of the games that Marvel's working on. I mean that Disney has. They left out Spider-Man 2. They left out Wolverine. There's about a half dozen Star Wars games that they didn't even talk about or mention, and they still had like almost a dozen video games they had at that showcase, leaving out all the stuff that I just said. And so it makes me wonder, like, is Disney too dominant at this point? Terrence, how do you feel, man?
I think the thing that Disney has above, well, I guess I'll look at it first from the film and television perspective. Disney is one of the last big media companies that has pedigree. Like a lot of these other companies, they've like had their highs and lows, and I mean Disney they've had their lows as well, but not in the same way that some of these others have. And if we just look at things from a modern perspective, like a lot of these other streaming services, they're going through their own issues right now. Disney Plus, ever since launch day, they haven't really encountered the same issues. Like first off, Disney has what people want. Disney has, like, from a children's perspective, it has the content that a lot of adults want their kids watching, or that a lot of kids like, or they're going to be like, mommy, I want to watch, this on Disney Plus, yada, yada. And so it encourages, the parents to buy the service. And yeah, it's just content for all ages. Disney is, of course, known for being family friendly, so you can't really go wrong with buying, Disney Plus and getting it. So from day one, Disney, even without the original content that they have now, their whole catalog, just having that available just in a streaming format alone is a huge W. So even if they didn't add anything to it, that would have been huge for them. But now that they're adding like their own original content, with Marvel, with Star Wars, and so many other series that they're adding on, it's huge. Disney just has this huge pedigree that can't be touched by anyone at the moment. So Disney's just big. It's not really much that I can say. It's just that Disney is just one hell of a force to be reckoned with. I mean, even outside of film and TV, like you said, now they have games that are being worked on. Honestly, the thing that I think put Disney even further ahead was an acquisition that probably shouldn't have happened, was the 20th Century Fox acquisition. Like that one.
We all wanted that shit to happen for, well, I say all the Marvel fans wanted that shit to happen for X-Men and Fantastic Four, but it wasn't a good idea overall.
I mean, think about it this way. Disney has 2 of the highest grossing films in the world, in Avatar and Avengers Endgame. So, I remember they were having the contest to see like which one, because they were kind of like neck and neck as to who would be number 1 and who would be number 2. And it's like either way, Disney wins. They own both of these franchises now.
That was before, like they didn't own it at the time, and I think Avatar even like re-released so they could like get a few more people to see it, so they could jump ahead of Avengers. And now it is at the point where you're right. It's just Disney just won, and there's nothing nobody can do about it.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yeah. So yeah, even now they're into gaming with a lot of the franchises that you mentioned. And, of course, Disney has the theme parks. Disney is everywhere. So you really just can't escape it. So yeah, Disney is a dominant force. And, I know we're going to get into it later in the podcast with another question, but yeah, how you fight against it, I really don't know. It's wild.
It is definitely wild. Will, do you think Disney is do they have their hands in too many pies? Are they too dominant, man?
I think another way for me to kind of put it is that they aren't necessarily too dominant, but they're more like the well-oiled machine that a lot of companies wish they could have hoped to be.
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Terrence said, or to at least kind of pretty much reiterate what he says. He said that Disney has this pedigree about them, they have this legacy about them, and they've always been known for their quality. And I think, if anything, the best way to put it is they're like I'll make a real world example. They're like that retail store that always has a full staff and the store stays stocked, nothing gets missed. Some of these other companies are looking a little shorthanded and they can't seem to figure it out yet. So that's just really the best way to put it for Disney. They're the store that you want to go to. Anywhere else, on the other hand, you just like, I really can't find what I'm looking for here. I need to go over here because they have it. These some guns over here don't.
Yeah, you
That's
calling
really the best way I
Disney
can put it.
Costco?
And honestly, bro, I hate to say it, but they are. They are Costco. They are organized. They're together. They put out a pretty consistent quality a lot of the time. They may miss a little bit here and there, but they can always rectify that with the next thing that pops up. So Disney is kind of just hitting on all cylinders. Do I think anyone can beat them? The only way you beating them is if Disney trips. And I don't see them tripping anytime soon. So Disney just kind of has it, unless they just screw up and just don't throw something out there that's just a flat out dud.
That is a great analogy, and then the last thing you said is actually sad because I don't think it matters because they have been throwing out duds and it just doesn't like well because like if you watch Star Wars at all, you'd know like what was the last really great Star Wars thing? Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, you get what? Obi-Wan, which is aight at best. You get Boba Fett, which a lot of fans fucking hated. You get it. You got the sequel trilogy, which is cheeks. I don't care what nobody say. Like, don't nobody really like the sequel trilogy. The people that like the sequel trilogy only like it to make a certain group of nerds mad. That shit was ass. Like, I've seen episodes 7 and 8. I never watched none of the old ones. I've really only watched like the TV shows, and that's it. Like, I've really only watched TV shows, and see, I see 7 and 8. I was like, this not a good movie. It's boring. It's whack. So like, they have duds, and they still just because they got so many things, it feel like it don't matter if they got a dud or not.
Yeah.
At least to me, like I don't know, like maybe I'm tripping, but it feel like they gotta miss way more frequently than that. It's like I don't know. They feel like the Activision, the Ubisoft to everybody else's Activision. You know, like Ubisoft.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
They got a whole bunch of they miss a lot. Ubisoft misses a lot. But guess what?
So much that hits.
Yeah, like they, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is they best-selling Assassin's Creed ever. Far Cry was Far Cry 6 best-selling Far Cry. Rainbow Six Siege still doing crazy numbers. So like, yeah, they got these other things that fail, but it's like, man, who gives a shit? All the other ones, like the big games, are still a success. Meanwhile, everybody else is like Activision, like they got that one big thing that they working on, and if that shit fail, that's it. That's their ass. That's your ass, Mr. Postman.
I think that's the thing is that Disney, they don't really take huge financial losses like that. I think that's the thing is that, you look at someone like Amazon, for example, if Lord of the Rings doesn't do too well, that's a lot of money that they're losing because that show is freaking expensive. And so Disney isn't taking any huge right now. As of right now, they're not taking any huge L's quite like that.
I mean, hopefully Rings of Power is a success. I like what I've seen from it thus far. Like,
I think it'll be a success. Like, I don't think it will fail. I mean, I think it's too big to like fail in like we're going under kind of way, I think there's going to be people that I think there'll be people that won't like it, but I don't think it's going to be like a financial failure is what I'm getting at. Yeah, because that's the thing. I think that when people call something a failure, it's like, yeah, sure, it can have its, people that don't like it as a whole, but at the end of the day, how did it do financially? Like, it may not have like a legacy, like when we look back at like the most recent Star Wars trilogy, we may not see it in like a positive light, but at least it financially didn't bankrupt Disney. We'll put it that way.
It's a disappointment versus being a failure.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, that's probably the best way to look at it.
Go.
Yeah.
Rakeem, do you feel like Disney is too dominant? They got their hands in too many pies?
They are very dominant. They definitely have their hands in a lot of pie. To me personally, I guess it's the dangerous part for Disney is just like maintaining some of the quality control, because even though, like you said, it doesn't matter as long as you keep these certain properties high and like fan demand is there. If you piss off fans enough, you'd be surprised what a decline will happen. So you have to be. So with Disney, like, I'm a Star Wars fan. Sage mentioned that lately the Star Wars shows have been hit or miss. Yes, Will.
That was actually what I wanted to say to kind of revise my statement at the end, where I said that they just throw out a flat out dud. I think if they throw out just enough duds at one time, then yeah, most certainly Disney will definitely fall off.
Yeah. I think for Disney, they have to find a good medium of like, okay, what's like, once you put out a certain amount of content, what's working, what's not working, what kind of content does our fan base seem to like? It seems like the traditional Disney princess movies they bring every few years, those are still hitting like fireworks. Like we just talked about, I can't even remember the name of that movie.
Encanto.
Encanto, how big of a deal that was when it came out. Like that content seems to resonate with fans. That's what they come to see. For Star Wars fans, Mandalorian was a big hit, way bigger hit than I think they even expected. I see people with Mandalorian stickers on the back of their cars, and this is the way it was. Baby Yoda everywhere, mega hit for them. And then when the Marvel shows first started, when they first started the streaming service Marvel shows, because when they first started the streaming service with Disney Plus, which is like their big new engine, they were going to get into the streaming platform. They had all their old catalog, which, like as Sage said, that's a lot right there because that catalog weighs so much. And they only really had one show at first, Mandalorian, and that kicked off. To me, its success kicked off like, okay, this is working. Let's keep with our original plan. Let's keep these shows running. And then they brought out WandaVision. They brought out Falcon and Winter Soldier. They brought out Loki. And that first year of the streaming service, man, it felt so fresh. It felt like, all right, I see the vision. All these shows have a different timbre to them, a different feel to them, but they all are pretty decent in their own way. I'm behind this. The only thing I can see getting Disney's way is that, like, they continue to put out the content, but they don't. I always say this about quality control. Yeah, watch your quality control. I noticed with the recent Thor movie, people love Thor 3. But the reception of Thor 4 was a lot less because they lean more, as Terrence talked about, they lean more into the comedy maybe than they should have. They kind of forgot, like, there's a happy balance between certain things to keep the audience invested into the property. Sage, you about to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So that's the kind of missteps you can have when, like, you have the vision to put out the content, but you don't have, like, each show still has to have a certain weight of, like, how I describe this, a certain quality to it where the audience sees the vision what you're going for, and also the show is still well paced, well directed, and well written. For instance, like me and Sage talked about it, we're watching She-Hulk right now, and I admit those first 2 episodes I was kind of like, I didn't see the vision for the show to episode 3 when they leaned into the comedy more, and like, I get what this show is now. That was the wake up aha moment for me. Like, okay, this show figured out what it wanted to be. It's leaning into the comedy. It's not taking itself too seriously, and that's the vein it's going. I'm behind it. I get it. Like, I need more shows that kind of figure out what they want to be. Like, when I watched Obi-Wan, I was like, okay, I kind of get what this show is, but it still feels like directionless. Boba Fett felt like literally the opposite of what the show should have been. We have a legendary bounty hunter who doesn't want to kill anybody or do anything dangerous.
I told y'all what happened with Boba Fett. They made Mandalorian, and that should have been the Boba Fett story, but they decided to make something completely different. And then when it came time to do to do Boba Fett, they was like, fuck, what do we do? And the next thing you know, he's some smiley dude running a crime-filled city, and it's like, nah, my guy, don't work that way. You gotta be grimy. That's the only way this is going. You got to be grimy.
Exactly. Disney, while they get their hands on all these 2 million pockets, all I wanted to say is, like, give the fans what they want. I knew Disney was going to have an uphill battle after the first phase of the MCU ended, all the way to Endgame, because
the Infinity Saga,
because no one had ever done anything like that before. that was a first for the audience. Like that was an incredible ride, and I always give credit to them for getting those movies out there. No matter what happens after this, whether the next saga flops, which it probably won't. If it does, they still have that Infinity Saga that fans be like, man, I really didn't like that Phase 4 stuff, but that goddamn Infinity Saga, I'm gonna watch it again. You still need stuff like that. So yeah, I think them dipping into some of the movies and the shows and the gaming, it could kind of cause some issues with like quality control. Like they got a card game coming out for some reason. Who asked for that? You know, like at the end of the day, you probably never watched this podcast, and you might not care what I have to say. Just make sure you give the audience what it wants. See what works. Pay attention to what got you there in the first place to this popularity with these franchises, and just give the audience what it wants. And then Disney will be fine.
So I feel like nobody gave me the answer that I wanted to hear, which is, I mean, like, I'm not saying that y'all have to think the way I think. I'm just saying, like, I'm surprised. The answer to me is yes, Disney is way too dominant. They have way too much power. It's absurd. Like, for them to have.
Hey, I did say the Fox merger shouldn't have happened.
You did say that, and you were right. Like, that shit. Like, at the time, I was like, yeah, you know, I want Fantastic Four in-house, but I was wrong. Like, fuck that. They should have worked out.
Yeah, you
the
remember when people were talking about, like, yeah, watch out, Sony, you know, Disney will buy you next. It's like, you don't want that. You really do not want that. Mm-hmm. That's called a monopoly, people.
Correct. Like, and like, there was a term for this because there's like, what is it? There's the vertical monopoly, and then there's the horizontal monopoly. And I think one of them, I always get these two confused. One of them is legal, one of them is illegal. And I think the horizontal is the legal one, where you can just kind of do whatever the fuck you want. And it sucks because, like, Disney got too much shit. It was one thing when Disney was the company that had, like, you know, the Disney princess stuff and then like a few good cartoons, and it was like, all right, cool. And of course they had their amusement parks and shit like that. When they bought Marvel, it was like, all right, well, it's time. Like, you got to take this motherfucker serious now. Then they bought Star Wars. Now it's like, bro, like, y'all everywhere. And then like once they entered streaming, it's like at one point, and I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some kind of expert on law, but at one point in the past, they outlawed the ability for you couldn't make and then also distribute your own movies. You couldn't do both. Like, you couldn't produce films and then own a fucking movie theater. You couldn't do both. Well, that's kind of antiquated now, right? Like the idea of a movie theater like that, you still have them, but hell, they file. You got movie theater companies filing for bankruptcy left and right, shit like that.
They just had a $3 cinema day.
They just had a $3.
Knew what it was doing.
They know what's going on. People don't want to go to some people go to the movie theater sometimes, but the shit, it costs too much. You want to buy a popcorn, it's gonna cost you $69.99 and shit. Like, don't nobody want to pay all of that.
Nice,
so like,
nice.
The next gen popcorn,
for small.
I appreciate you, Terrence, but I was actually going for the PS5 joke. It costs much of a PS5 game just to get you a medium popcorn. Like, you coming out the pocket, you paying it all, and like, don't nobody want to pay all of that. People just go home and they get a streaming service, and that's basically your distribution now. And so like they have their own streaming service. There's like so much content now. Like, it's an embarrassment of riches. Like, me and Keem before the podcast, we were talking about how like there was at the beginning it was just The Mandalorian, like, and then eventually they were like, well, we'll have one show basically a week, you know. You might have and they would alternate. It'd be like, okay, here's your Marvel show, here's your Star Wars show, here's your Marvel show, here's your Star Wars. That's over with. Like, it's looking like going forward, there will be multiple shows a week coming out. There will be so much content that you'll have to pick. Some shows you might be like, I'm not with that. But like, it used to be, you'd say, I'm not with that, and then you just weren't watching Disney Plus for several weeks. Now it's like, you'll probably look at all the shows coming out, go, oh man, I'm not with that, but I'm with these other 3 shows, so I guess I'm watching Disney Plus all week long. Like, holy shit. Like, it's so many shows, and they've got so much power in the Hollywood, in the media industry, that it's disgusting. Like, you can't get the only way to get away from them is to say, I don't care about superheroes, which I'm never gonna say that. I don't care about most fantasy, a lot of sci-fi. Like, I don't care about none of that shit. You just give me horror, I guess, and realistic
Give 'em-
bullshit.
Give them a few years.
They'll put that on Hulu, I imagine. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Give them a few years, and
They'll
and
give them
they'll
like
have-
classic horror. They have like Dracula, Werewolf, and like Frankenstein on Disney.
that's Universal, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
first
no,
of all,
you're
that's
right. It's
true.
Universal, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's true. That is
It's
Universal. You're right.
But I mean that doesn't stop them from doing their own version of those, so they can do that on Hulu. And then I guess reality shows. That's pretty much the only thing else that besides that they could do that they aren't doing right now. And it's like, and I
Camp
think
Disney.
they have. I was finna say I think they have a couple of versions of their own like reality type shit. So like, fuck, y'all got everything. Y'all serve every type of customer. Like, I know people describe that as good business, but it's not good for diversity, and it's not good for diversity of thought, not necessarily diversity of people. It's not good for diversity, and it's not good for just like competition. It's not great for competition. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, because if you
So
really
I'm-
think about it, Disney has like some of the biggest like who's putting out like the big blockbusters right now? It's Disney in some way.
It's largely just Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit is fucking crazy. What's going on,
Yeah.
Keen?
I'm about to say also one danger they could come up, even though they own all these IPs, is like if you keep producing all these different shows and movies of these same IPs, you can run into franchise fatigue, which of course happens in gaming a lot, but it can happen in, keep seeing shows and movies over and over and over again. Eventually the superhero bubble will burst. People kind of get kind of tired of superhero shows.
Yeah, we're speeding towards that finale.
Yeah.
I will say the only thing that is stuck around this long with the same level of like popularity is like the Western. The Western was the thing in Hollywood from like the 50s into like the 70s, and then like in the 70s you got like the new auteur filmmakers. They came along and they were like, we're gonna make things that aren't Westerns, and they made your Star Wars and your Jaws and these other things, and that kind of took the sting. Eventually people was just like, yeah, we're just not gonna watch eventually people all realized like, yeah, we're just not gonna watch Westerns anymore. Westerns kind of fell off by the 80s. You barely had any Westerns at all, if any. And superheroes, I said it when they started saying like, oh, we gonna have all these TV shows. I'm like,
It's too much to keep
The
up
film-
with.
yeah, yes. The films is one thing. Like when it's 1 or 2 films, even 3 films. If it's 3 films a year, like a year is long, my guy. Like you went and saw 3 superhero films in a year, you probably gonna be like, yeah, so what? Like I go to the movie theaters, once a month, and of those, like a fourth of those is superheroes, and then the rest is other shit. Cool. But like films and TV shows, and then y'all not the only ones making superhero shit. So like, yeah, it's only a matter of time before people get tired of it. I know people think, oh, if the bubble don't pop after like a year, then it's just gonna go on forever. That ain't how that works. Eventually, they gonna hit the brick wall. And with Star Wars too, because like Star Wars to me never had the depth as far as characters to tap into a whole universe. The best thing they have is to go to different timelines, and I say timeline, parts in the timeline, and they never want to do that. Like I think they just now about to do something in the High Republic with what's the name of that shit? Acolytes? Star Wars Acolytes? Yeah.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
finally
that's a new
started.
thing.
Yeah,
Right,
and that's not
new.
coming out. Yeah. That's not coming out for a while. So like you stuck in the same, Empire era and shit like that. Like, come on, man. But yeah, okay. So one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get to the big question. Friday they had the Disney and Marvel game showcase, and for the most part, it was kind of mid. Like I like we looked at it, it was a lot of like cell phone shit and free to play this and remaster of a Gargoyles game, and they couldn't even be bothered to show you a clip of the game. But the one thing they did have was the new project coming from Skydance New Media, and it's from Amy Hennig, who's known for her work on Uncharted, Legacy of Kain, and a couple other big series. She also did, I want to say, what was it, Battlefield Hardline? I think she had something to do with that.
Probably.
The cop one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like she had like she's heading up the studio, and they announced, I believe, sometime last year or the year before that they were working on a new Marvel game. And for a while we had no idea what it was. There was a rumor going around that it was like Fantastic Four, and I really wanted that. And instead, It is something that nobody saw coming. It is Captain America teaming up with Black Panther, fighting Hydra in World War II. Rakeem, what did you think about this?
What were they thinking?
AVGN, what were they thinking?
Great question.
This is one of those outside the box things. Now, first of all, I'm never mad at Cap or Black Panther. I'm cool with both of those characters being in the video game. I like both those characters. Yeah. Let's get it. However, first off, since this is a World War II era, we don't even have T'Challa. It's T'Challa's grandfather as Black Panther.
Yes.
And then the other representatives are a soldier who likely is not Bucky for some reason.
It's definitely not Bucky. It's the unnamed soldier. Well, not unnamed. A new soldier named Gabriel Jones.
Okay.
Gabriel Jones.
Blackity black.
And I can never remember that order of warriors from Wakanda. I was getting the name wrong.
Dora Milaje, but she's not.
The Dora Milaje. Yeah.
She's her name is Nonali. She's the head. Okay, so let me just go ahead and get this out here. Playable characters. There'll be 4 playable characters. Captain America, obviously young, inexperienced. Zuri, T'Challa's grandfather.
Right.
Gabriel Jones of the Howling Commandos. They're best known for working with Sergeant Rock. And Nonali, the head of the Wakandan spy network. Go ahead, Rakeem.
Okay. When I first saw this, I was like, yeah, this could have been so much cooler. Like, the World War II thing didn't bother me too much. But just seeing like them mix the superheroes and just regular people, I'm like, what was the purpose of this? I guess is it more like you're trying to really ground this story? So you have a mix of like the combination of heroes and regular people working together. That could be the story you're telling. I get it. But I don't want to be grounded with superheroes. I'm sorry, I don't. Even like the regular superheroes who like don't have powers like Batman, his villains aren't grounded. They're all types of crazy, all types of wild. I view superheroes as a conduit for either like power fantasy or like a fantasy of ideology where like you want to see people who represent higher ideologies of positivity in our society, where our society can be. You know, what people can be when they want to do good for people without selfish ideals. And I guess in some way this is kind of representing that. But for me, my own selfish ways, like, why can't we do this with the Avengers? Or an older team? Or you could have did Avengers, then all of a sudden everybody get trapped in the past or something like that. Oh, that'd be such a cool story. Get trapped in the past and do a story like that, where, like T'Challa meets his father and like has to work with his father on some stuff back in the past or like something like that. I would have been more cool with that. I just don't know what they were thinking. They're thinking outside the box. I give them that, I guess. I wasn't super pleased about it, but I do like the fact that we get Black Panther and Captain America. So at least we get that. Amy Hennig, we know she's very big on story-focused games, usually linear story-focused games. So we'll probably have a strong narrative, very good character work, very good. They'll get top-quality voice actors and mocap. It'll probably look amazing graphically. These are all things that are hallmarks of the game she makes. So the quality of the game is not without question. I just don't know if I'll care enough about it. I need to see this game in action and see what the vision is. If it's cool enough where like, okay, this vision looks okay with me, I might play it. Otherwise, it's not on my list. I'd rather wait for Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine and call it a day.
I tell you what, let me go ahead and get it out. I'm equally upset. In fact, I was more upset. I was fucking baffled. I saw that shit. I was so hyped for the idea of a Fantastic Four game because I'm like, Amy Hennig is a really great narrative director, and I was sure, I was like, yeah, we could. It's so many things you could do with Marvel's First Family, and it feels like for so long they've been shafted. They've gotten the shaft.
Yeah.
Like, as far like MCU fans won't know this because the only Fantastic Four they've ever seen is the 2000s one, which is kind of like, all right, but they just kind of corny. And then like the really abysmal one from 2015, 2016. I forget what year it came out. This piece of shit, right? But like, you got those 3 films, 2 and 1 garbage, and like that's it. But if so, like what you don't know is that the Fantastic Four is the reason you have a Marvel universe. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby together created the Marvel Universe whole cloth within their first 100 issues of Fantastic Four in the early 60s, in the mid 60s, right? And so, like, they deserve a story where you can get something and like people can see what's special about them. Because if you don't read the comics, you won't know that like when people get on Fantastic Four, they show the fuck out. Every time a creator gets on the Fantastic Four, they bring their A game, and you get some of the best comic books, some of the best superhero comics in the world are Fantastic Four books. It's always Fantastic Four and Daredevil for some reason. I don't know. Like I think they just like torturing that nigga. But yeah, like I was hoping, I was like, yeah, we're gonna get a Fantastic Four game. I was so hyped because that was the rumor, based on some stuff that is irrelevant now, but that was the rumor, right? And then we get this, which by the way doesn't have a title, and I'm like, God damn, you showing this off too early if you don't have a fucking title. But I was like so upset. I'm like, I'm with Keem. Like Keem said a lot of my thoughts. Like 2 regular motherfuckers. So, and I know I'm supposed to be excited. I'm, like, oh, the cast is mostly black. Black superheroes. Go get some black superheroes. Don't make me play as regular motherfuckers. Yeah, go get the Blue fucking Marvel. A badass. If you don't know about Blue Marvel, go look him up. Amazing character. Like, don't just have me like, don't stop trying to sell me on, oh, but you playing as some black characters. Like, yeah, but they regular. I'm not interested. Like, put regular characters in a regular game. When you make a superhero game, I want to be some superheroes. And yeah, maybe like Rakeem said, they trying to vary the gameplay up. I assume not only the head of the Wakandan Spy Network, her missions will be based on sneaking around. And Gabriel Jones, that's when they want you to go, guns a-blazing, but they don't want you to feel immortal. So it can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Cover-based shooter, like that type shit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then Cap and Black Panther will get a chance to do their own type of combat that's more over-the-top superhero type shit. But it all should have been over-the-top superhero type shit. There is already a team from the 1940s called the Invaders. And it had the original Vision, and it had the original Human Torch, who was like just an android, and it had like Namor the Submariner, and all these cool characters that you could have used to do like a 1940s game where you fight Hydra. That could have been done. But instead, we got this. Now, as Keem said, and I'm going to echo a lot of what Keem said, because I feel like I agree with a lot of what he said. As Keem said, Amy Hennig is good at directing, and the graphics are going to be on point, and the voice acting is going to be on point. So this very well might be a great game. I just would have rather it been anything else.
I got you.
Yeah.
Will, how did you feel, man? You saw it. What did you think?
Yeah, I saw the trailer, and seeing the details of it, I gotta admit, off the top of my head, I'm like, Captain America? I mean, if we doing a game based on him back in that time, makes sense. But then we threw Black Panther in there, and then I'm just like, is there something I missed? Is there something I didn't read? Maybe I'm not reading enough. So I'm just like, okay, so we got Black Panther back here, and then I hear there's 2 other people. You know what I'm saying? One, but it's just, I'm just kind of like, I know it's gonna look good. I know it's gonna turn out good. I'm sure it's probably gonna play great. But my question always lies in why. Like, I just want to know, because I feel like there was something more they probably could have done. And then you said they ain't got no title, and I saw that too, and I'm just like, damn, they really don't have a title. Because you made me remember that. I'm just like, they didn't have.
I think I know the title. I think I know the title's gonna be called, y'all. It's gonna be Captain America, Civil Rights.
It's the 40s, so he wouldn't be. I mean, Black Panther wouldn't be getting that. There actually is a comic book called Captain America: Black Panther, Flags of Our Fathers. I think the name of the comic is. And if they base it off that might just be the title. But who knows?
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it's based off of.
So, I feel like this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, I might need to do some research here to get a better grasp of what I might be seeing. Because I'm not going to sit too high on it, and I'm not going to sit too low, and I'm going to be like, let me do some research first before I truly be like, yeah, this is going to be a piece of shit. Or, yeah, this is going to be a piece of gold. I don't know. So, That's really all I can give on it. It just feels like one of those. That's a choice you made. I don't know why, but you made it. Thanks, I guess.
I mean, I would love to see us like you could do so many. There are so many ways to do an all-black superhero team that would be cool. The Agents of Wakanda, you could do something like that. There was an all-black superhero team that came out like right after Black Panther dropped, and it had like Storm and Blue Marvel and Black Panther and I think Luke Cage and maybe War Machine. I'm blanking on it, but like it was a pretty cool comic book that I wish had gone longer than it did. It only ran like 6 issues, but like the potential is there, and you get the variety of characters and gameplay and combat. So like I don't know, Terrence, how did you feel about it, man?
I'd have to say that I don't feel as strongly as you all do about it, but at the same time, this is one of those things where I can't really comment on until I see like actual gameplay and know the direction that we're heading in. And you know what? Listening to you all's opinions about it allowed me to kind of like look up some things. And, you know, this really reminds me of the way the Avengers game was announced, in that the Avengers game, it was just announced as the Avengers Project. They just announced it. They had a little teaser trailer. It was like 30 seconds or so. They announced that. And then they just left it dead for like 3 years or something like that. Ooh. And then they came back. They gave us that trailer. People were kind of side-eyeing that trailer, and well, the rest is history. So I'm sure this won't go down quite that path, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to hear about this game for another couple of years. It is going to be a while. It's kind of like the Wolverine game, where I feel like they announced it, but in terms of when we actually see more, is going to be a while. And we all know that games nowadays, especially these big AAA games, they take time to make. And if your game doesn't even have a title at this point, it's going to be a bit. It might be like, let's see, we're in 2022 now. Shoot, we might not hear another word about that game until like 2025. That's my guess. But
you are correct. The one thing I'll say about Avengers that this game doesn't have, Avengers was like built to be like this multiplayer games as a service, get as much shit out you as it can type ass game. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be like a straightforward single player narrative adventure. So it has that going for it.
Well, I feel like they had to learn their lesson after that. So, you know,
you ain't never lied. I'm not
gonna lie to you, man. To be honest, you could take out the 2 regular people. You could have just get me Cap and Black Panther on the adventure. I would have been fine.
I would actually like that better. What's up, Will?
Okay, so I remember you mentioning the all black like Marvel superhero team that kind of happened like after Black Panther. Yeah. I don't know if this is it, but I see something here. And I kid you not, this is the name of it. I want you to hear it. I don't know if this is an official thing from Marvel. It might be, but hear me. This is called, and I quote, Black Panther and the Crew.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Okay, good. Because the first one, I think the first issue was named like Black Panther and the Crew. We Are the Streets.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I felt some type of way about that title. I felt some type of way about that. I really did.
Yeah, but I mean, like it was done by black people. So I mean, like,
I let it slide, but I'm just kind of like.
Reminded you of the Miles Morales we saw a few months ago.
My Odin's Fade.
Yeah.
My Odin's Fade.
I was laughing about that for about a whole week. Oh,
rightfully so. I lied. It was Blue Marvel was not on this motherfucking team. It was Storm, Black Panther, Misty Knight, Luke Cage, and then this character y'all have never heard of called Manifest.
It's like dudes and they old ladies together.
Kind of. Well, actually, no. In the comics,
no, Misty and Luke weren't together. Right.
It was Misty and Danny. Yeah.
Right. Danny got that.
But it was something else that Terrence said that I was gonna come back to.
Avengers?
Oh, the delay. Oh. The delay, like how long it'll. You're right. All it's gonna take fucking forever before you see that shit. The fact that it doesn't have a title tells me it'll be ages. 2025 is exactly where I would peg it as to like when you hear about that game again and when you play it. Probably 2026. Wolverine is probably coming out in 2025 because I mean, like Insomniac is like they're fucking machines, bro.
Yeah.
Like
It's thorough.
Spider-Man 2 is supposed to come out next year, which means probably 2 years from that, because it's not going to be a
That's
big open world
insane.
game. Wolverine will probably be out in 2025. So like, bro, woo.
I mean, I guess I'll give Insomniac this, is that they have kind of like the assets from Miles Morales and the Spider-Man game. So it's like they don't have to like totally rebuild anything. So they can kind of just go from there. So I can kind of see why the Spider-Man game is coming out so quick. But it's going to be a while before we see anything on that Black Panther and Captain America game. And I think I get the reason why they announce these games so early now is really to just get people invest in, let you know that there's something coming, rather than waiting until like the last minute when it's going to come out like next year or something like that. It's like, I don't know. It feels like they like now, just to kind of like keep you interested, they announce these games like way earlier than they probably should. At least that's just the way I look at it. Yeah.
They're recruitment tools. Like, so this is getting off topic, but I mean, we down to like, there's only one more question left. So the problem is, in the gaming industry, there's kind of a dearth of talent, like especially like at the senior level. And so what you want to do is get the excitement up as much as you can to like get people like to come work on your project. They're like, oh yeah, we're working on a Wolverine game, or we're working on a Spider-Man game, or whatever. And so like when you put out something like this, now you don't have to like back channel and try to like get under the table and tell people that what you're working on, because it's eventually just going to get out anyway. So
it's not like Codename Shark or something like that.
Nah, ain't no point in none of that shit. So you get out in front of it and you let everybody know, oh, hey, we're working on Captain America and Black Panther. And then like you see some talent will go, fuck, I want to work on that. And so that's how you get your high. Like, that's why you're starting to see so many of these trailers of games that are like fucking years off. It's a recruitment tool. So the last question I have, tying into the is Disney too dominant thing, is there any studio that can stand up to Disney? Any studio or streaming service that can stand up to Disney? And actually, I feel like Terrence said it, but he didn't say it in a positive way. Amazon, I feel like, can stand up to Disney, like, because Jeff Bezos got so much fucking money. Like Kaiser Bezos, he dripping in money. Like he threw $750 million at Lord of the Rings just because his son was like, hey, don't fuck this up. So like, if you got that kind of guap, and it's contractually obligated apparently to run 50 episodes, which is insane. Most
crazy.
shows get 10 at best, and sometimes they might cancel it after like 5. Be like, it's canceled, but you can enjoy the other 5. But like, I feel like if they really wanted to, they could compete. Are they going to? I don't know, because they're not doing a whole bunch of shows at one time. But they have Lord of the Rings. They have Wheel of Time, which did fairly well last year. And I guess I would assume it does well this year as well, depending on when it comes out. And so, like, if they wanted to keep the focus on them, aren't they Invincible?
You're talking about the platform that has...
Yeah,
Amazon has Invincible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, do they have The Boys?
Yeah, they have The Boys, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So they got a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you think about it, they have Invincible, they have The Boys, they have Lord of the Rings, they have The Wheel of Time. Like, they have a lot of... They had the Expanse was huge. Like, well, not huge, but it was super beloved. Like, everybody fucked with it. So, like, you've got all these big critically acclaimed shows, and then you've got these big, huge IP like Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings, even if they aren't as big yet. You got to give them some time. But even if they aren't as big just yet, they got a lot going for them. And so I feel like Amazon is probably the only company that can come anywhere close to it. I feel like Netflix has a bad habit of just throwing as much shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, okay, we might get this to work. And like HBO or Discovery or whatever the fuck you want to call it is a fucking trash fire rolling down a hill. Like, they don't know what the hell's going on anymore. Like, they selling, they canceling projects here and selling Batman cartoons to fucking Disney and shit like that, which is not confirmed, but like, they are selling that Batman cartoon they were working on, and man. Disney is interested in buying it to like put it on their network, which is
muffled trash can noises.
Can y'all imagine, just for a second?
That's weird.
Can you imagine if Batman, like the next Batman cartoon, was on Disney Plus?
Bro, I would be shook.
They should be shook. You The people that own Batman should have Batman, and somehow it's gonna have their biggest competitor. You know what that is? It's a look into 10 years in the future. That's what that is. 10 years from now, when they cocked everything up and Disney just buys DC Comics from them, that's what that is.
God. That would
So,
be
like,
terrifying.
I barely got that out without throwing up, Rakeem. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm forcing myself to get used to it because I'm knowing that they just gonna keep fucking up, and that's eventually what's gonna happen. So, like, to me right now, the bet because like Paramount is just the Star Trek network, and what's that other show they got?
Halo.
That all the old people watch.
Tell me,
More
you
Star
said
Trek?
Paramount?
Yeah, I think Paramount has this. The show that all the old people watch, the Western show.
Western show?
Yellowstone.
Thank you.
Ain't that
Oh
dope?
yeah. People do like that.
I Yellowstone is huge. I'm not sure if it's Paramount or not. It's either Paramount or Peacock, but I think it's Paramount. That motherfucker huge. Paramount is basically just Star Trek network. Peacock is WWE network redone. They couldn't even get that fucking Saved by the Bell reboot to work. So at this
They got
point,
Bel Air.
they do got Bel Air. At this point, I feel like the only motherfuckers this got a shot is Amazon, at least to me. And I'm willing to hear arguments to like convince me otherwise. Terrence, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I wish this. I wish I had a better answer for this. Like, this is kind of like one of those things where I feel like somebody's going to come in the comments and have a more in-depth answer to say. And
Hell, Terrence,
Yeah.
it might not be an answer. It might just be Disney rules forever and ever. Amen. So just shoot, bro.
I mean, I know there's
Go,
details
go.
that I feel like I'm missing here, but I will say that the case against Amazon is, while Amazon, yes, it feels like they've been doing well with a lot of stuff that they're putting out. They're not putting it out at the level that Disney is putting out. Like, Disney's consistently dropping stuff that just people like. And even though there's a few misses here and there, it's still, and I guess another way to look at it is that Amazon is new to this. Like, Amazon didn't start off as a movie studio or like a distributor or anything like that. They're just a marketplace. That's what they started off as. And now they're like, I will say that Amazon is kind of like Disney in the sense that Amazon has their hands in a lot more jars than you would think. I remember there's this YouTuber I watched called The Company Man, where he talked about how many things Amazon owns that people don't really realize, that just kind of like adds together to
Everything.
Yeah, they own a lot of stuff. So they are kind of like Disney in that regard. But I would say, while Amazon is like the king of, like, you know, online commerce, you know, the marketplace and everything, Disney is definitely the king of like media, you know, just based on what they own. I guess I do see where you're coming from in terms of like Amazon being the one to compete. I still feel like Amazon is still a little wet behind the ears. Like, they still have, you know, some growth to go through in regards to handling media like that, just because that's not what they're known for. In terms of the other companies, Netflix is definitely going through their issues right now. You know, time will tell how things turn out for them.
They trying to charge you $45 to watch Cobra Kai, which I love Cobra Kai, but chill out.
Or play the Cobra Kai game on your phone, you know.
Apple TV, I mean, they have some good stuff, but they're not like big enough to where, you know, they're in the same league, you know. Hulu, I mean, Disney owns a majority stake, I believe, in Hulu, so that's theirs.
Yeah.
HBO, I mean, like I said, I think a couple episodes ago, HBO is that meme where you take the stick and you put it in your bicycle spoke and you just like crash, and it's like, why did you do this to me? It's like, you doing it to yourself. HBO is just slowly just spiraling, so I don't know what the hell is going on with them. So yeah, I don't know really who can compete in a sense. And I'm not thinking of like all the big film and TV studios that are out there, because I know there's a lot more. And like I said, I know someone will bring this up inevitably. Yeah, I mean, feel free to talk about this in the comments, because I feel like this is a big discussion, like something that I think more people should be talking about, like who can really compete with Disney. As of right now, I just feel like I personally don't have a solid answer to that. I know that might sound like a cop-out, but I don't know. Disney, they have a lot. Yeah, and I feel like my answer before kind of just feeds into this one. It's kind of like a combination of the two. It's like, is Disney too big? Yes. Can anyone stop Disney? No. So the answers just kind of collide with each other. So
I was wondering. I was kind of wondering on you. You was like, I want to make sure that these two questions, I'm not answering the same thing twice. And I was like, it should be the same thing. But yes, if your answer to the first one is yeah, it's too dominant, and no, I don't think anybody can stop them, then yeah, I can see where you're coming from. And you're not wrong. Like it's a valid response. Like don't let the comments, don't let them tell you otherwise. Like no, that's a valid. Hell no, can't nobody stop Disney.
I mean, yeah, they just made all the right moves. I mean, no one could have guessed when they acquired Marvel that Marvel would be as big as it is now. No one could have guessed when they acquired Star Wars it be, still going in the way that it is now. I remember a lot of people back then saying like, ugh, Disney's acquiring Star Wars. Ugh, I mean, that shit's gonna go south. So
Goofball said that after they made Marvel into the juggernaut that it was. Like what?
Well, when did they acquire Star Wars again? Because didn't they acquire Star Wars before the MCU started happening?
No. They required Star Wars like well after, because like they spent $4 billion on Marvel and they bought Star Wars, and that was the thing. This is why it sticks with me, because they spent, I believe, $10 billion on Star Wars, and I was like, what in the fuck? Like Marvel got to be worth way more. I was wrong, but like that's how
they bought Star Wars in 2012.
Okay, well that's when the first Avengers came out, so yeah, that kind of tracks. Yeah. So it like wasn't like huge just yet, but it was like it was definitely showing signs like, okay, we're going somewhere with it. Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like I didn't mean like that Marvel was insignificant when they bought Star Wars, but more so that Marvel wasn't at the level that it is quite now, or even like it wasn't even into phase 2 at that point. So yeah, so Disney has just made all the right moves. They haven't really had a loss in the same way that a lot of the streaming networks or even like a lot of the big networks have, because we've also seen like the big networks downgrade, like CBS, NBC, a lot of these juggernauts from years ago, the juggernauts of cable, essentially, they're not the same anymore. So, yeah, but I'm not going to go on any longer. That's pretty much my answer. I'll let everybody else go.
It's a valid answer. Like I said, don't let nobody in the comments tell you otherwise, because Disney got way too much shit going on. Will, what do you think, man?
Man, after I heard what you said, I was like, yeah, Amazon could stack up because they kind of standing on Jeff Bezos' wallet, but I don't know how long that would last them. Honestly, because I can't speak for what that man do with his money, and I can't speak for whenever he gonna spend his money on something. But when you think about it, I seen what Terrence saying too, how Amazon kind of just ain't doing what Disney can. Like I'll say it like this, they had a funding, but they not doing things at a quick enough rate. Like they're not catching the big things when they should and putting out more. I feel like if they put out more, then I could probably say, yeah, they can kind of stand up to Disney to an extent. What's up?
What I'll say is making film, like TV and film for Amazon, is more like a side thing. It's not their main thing. And so they don't need to do it at the same level as Disney, which I guess is what I'm kind of getting at, is that they still feel kind of young because that's not their main thing. So yeah, I could see them maybe give them time, and yeah, they'll eventually kind of maybe get to that level, but this is still a side hustle for them. It's a side quest.
Good point.
Yeah.
You're right.
And just like what Sage said earlier about the other services, about how some of them are basically like Netflix is just kind of aiming at the wall, hoping something sticks. HBO is looking like a complete and utter dumpster fire. They look like the kid that got put in the trash can and he's just yelling while he's sliding down the hill. He don't know when he gonna stop, but he just know he yelling and he threw it. And I don't know who would really just stand up to them flat out, like, and just be like, yeah, we here. Like I don't know who would just come in and be like that. I don't.
Maybe I'm not putting enough respect on Paramount. Like they got, they got Star
Paramount.
Wars, they got Yellowstone, they got
You mean not Star Wars, you mean Star Trek.
Star Trek. Yeah, my bad.
There you go.
They got Star Trek, they got Ninja Turtles, they got a bunch of old shit, because it is Paramount. They are a very old network, so like maybe once they start putting they shit together and putting their big guns out, they might be a bigger deal. Rakeem, you want to close it out for us?
Yeah. So to me, the only people who can get in Disney's way at this point is the government. Because they keep swallowing up.
You know what? That's a damn good answer.
Yeah, it is.
That's
Damn
an
good
answer right
answer.
there. You got that.
You know what a great example of this was? Y'all remember MK9 guys who played the story mode. At the end of story mode, remember Raven was like, we can't be Shao Kahn. We can't be Shao Kahn. He said, you know what we need to do? Let him win. He won. He absorbed all that power. And the elder guys had to say, no, too much. Not today. That's how they beat him. Disney had to step on his own foot and get too big for a British to try acquisition it should have tried and it'll screw itself up. Maybe that'll happen. But I was looking at the streaming numbers because I thought about it. I was like, yeah, Disney not only has its streaming service, it has Hulu and it has ESPN. They own ESPN as well. So you have ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I mean that's part of that package. You get
Yeah.
Spotify, Hulu,
Yep.
and ESPN Plus.
And Hotstar, but I don't know what Hotstar is. So I was reading this that in total of all the streaming services, we think about one service really competing one-on-one. They have multiple streaming services. So in total, they have over 221 million subscribers across all their streaming services.
Goodness gracious.
It's so big, I think they passed Netflix last month in total subscribers. If you count all the streaming services combined, of course. So yeah, streaming wise, like the only way you're gonna beat Disney is you can't beat all of Disney. You gotta beat them in a category and just fight that category. If you can't, so as we've noticed, they've been kind of flooding streaming with their content lately. They're starting to flood gaming with the Marvel games and the Star Wars games. If anybody's gonna face Disney in those areas, in gaming, it's probably gonna be Microsoft because they just one of the few companies that have just as many freaking new acquisitions in the area as Disney does normally. So maybe Microsoft can kind of stem off Disney in the gaming sector. But as far as totality, I don't see it. They're a juggernaut. They're here. They own too much. And
it sounds like Disney is the Jacksons. You can't beat Michael, but you can beat the rest of them.
I feel like the streaming wars have really just started. So we're still in the early phases of it.
Oh yeah.
We're already seeing the growing pains. Like Disney Plus is not that old. It's still in its early kind of phase. It's in its
came
growth
out like
phase.
What, 2020?
Yes.
Like pretty much I think like the end of 2020 was when it came out. I think
2019.
Was it 2019?
The very end of 2019. The very end of 2019, I think.
Damn, right when the pandemic hit. It's like they knew.
12, 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like it's gonna have its period where it's gonna have its exponential growth period where everything's going roses, and it's gonna stall out because eventually I think they've already announced they're going up in price too. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they are. I mean, which that was inevitable. It's like they couldn't keep that $7.99 for long. They couldn't.
I honestly think we're
a good deal. I ain't gonna lie.
Not at the beginning. I think we're somewhere between the middle and the end of the streaming wars. Like I think that you're gonna see a lot of streaming services click up, just to try to survive amongst all the giants. Because now you have Netflix, which is the one streaming first. Like they started as a streaming company. You have them. You have Disney. You have Paramount. You have Peacock. And then outside of that, you've got Discovery, kind of, sort of. And then everybody else is just at the back trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck are we going to be? And then, as you said, they're like starting to raise everybody's starting to raise prices. And now everybody's trying to introduce a lower priced ad supported tier.
Ad supported
bringing back
version.
that shit nobody wanted. Part
wait
of why
till
you got.
My bad. I was like, wait till if this Netflix gaming thing takes off a little bit, what's the other streaming service start putting games on their servers? That'd be a whole new thing going on like 5-6 years from now.
It's going to start to feel like, when you used to go to hotels in like the 2000s and they had like the
HBO package.
Yeah, they'd have the gaming package where you could buy games on the TVs.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
It kind of feels like that.
Oh, man.
You don't want to play Assassin's Creed on Disney Plus?
They're on. They have their own service, and actually, they're supposed to be on Netflix. God, that would be the thing where that would be the point at which Netflix had to, at which Disney had to stop. They tried to buy Netflix. That'd be it.
They try to buy
I don't think the
Netflix, and God himself be like, y'all need to chill out.
I don't think there was like I think the FTC aren't they the ones in charge of like blocking
must be
that stuff
stopped.
from happening? I think.
Yeah.
I don't think they would let that one happen. That's a bit too big of
Yeah.
an acquisition right there. That
As we've talked about on the podcast before, like none of us are really with big, huge monopolies, and Disney has kind of gone unchecked in this power. They're like they've gone unchecked for too long. Like they need to slowly roll. They got a card game coming out. They stepping on Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh toes now. They tripping.
They got two card games.
Oh snap! Yeah, they do.
They got Marvel Snap, so like they got two card games. They're insane.
This wild, bro. And now, of course, we didn't even mention they're getting the anime now.
Oh yeah, they
as
are.
part of their service.
Oh, you're talking about they're licensing anime, yeah.
That's the anime now. So like they trying to dip their toes everywhere. Stand the F down, Disney.
Look, let me wrap this up before I throw up at all this fucking dominance. That's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor and hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter and TikTok. I need you to tell your friends about us. And I need you to do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.